And hello, welcome back to the Over 40s Fitness Podcast. My name's Tristan Lowe, and today's subject is strength training. Okay, it's all in the title. What is strength training? It's actually a long known and still studied aspect of our physiological health, our musculoskeletal balance and function. Now, strength training comes in many guises. It could come from bodyweight exercises to resistance training with bands, dumbbells, kettlebells, medicine balls, etc., barbells. Ordinarily, certainly up to the last 15 years, strength training was viewed by the public as something that basically just men did, or athletes did, Olympic athletes did, to essentially take one object and move it from A to B, that object being a freestanding object or a machine or your own body. Now, there's a misconception that strength training will turn everyone into a bodybuilder or a silverback gorilla, and that's actually not true. You're talking about maybe 2% of the entire population on the planet can end up looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime. So I would suggest that the first thing we do is look at strength training benefits for our physiological health, certainly from the age of 40 and above, and if it's younger, that's for body development or sport specific. Now, I was at a consultation, I should say a group meeting yesterday, where two people that attended the meeting asked me just a couple of questions about the benefits of strength training, in which I gave them the best of my abilities, my answers as a personal trainer. I've been doing strength training from the age of about 11 in many different guises, from martial arts to basketball to weightlifting to climbing, even down to golf. But all elements of sports and fitness has had an element of strength in it. Now, I would suggest that everybody participate in some form of strength training. And if you find that the title itself or the name itself can put you off, then just change it and call it resistance training or call it something else. All right, so the first thing we should do as personal trainers, I'm going to show you something here for those that you're watching on YouTube. This is one of my study books. Again, wherever you see it highlighted, it's where I had to read it over and over again when I was studying back in 2008. And the prescription of strength training for clients, as generally we take on as a beginner, is the first thing to do is to educate our client to the benefits of strength training or resistance training. And that would be your posture, how we stand or how we sit. Okay, let's just assume that the majority of our clients come from a relatively sedentary background, i.e. they sit down all day in an office, or they sit down all day to drive. At the moment, I'm currently training a chauffeur, so he spends a lot of time sat down. And I also train office workers as well, so they sit down anything between 8 to 10 hours a day, and that's Monday to Friday. And then of course they sit down at the weekends as well. So, all right, strength training, get your body upright. Okay, so stand tall or even sit tall, as to actually increase the aesthetics, how we see, and of course the athletics or the mechanics of how we stand and walk. Now, I would always take a new client, and the first thing we do, once we've done a consultation and the Q&A about their health and fitness appraisal, and perhaps even then looked into any current medications, past or present, that they're taking, we start exercising. All right? And the most important muscle in the body being the heart. You need some strength in the heart. Our heart has to actually pump from the moment we're born. Actually, before that, for the 9 months of gestation. Okay, so we look at the heart and we try to get them moving, and that will be walking on a flat or an incline, and then at some point it could be jogging, and then after that, all right, certainly within the first 4 weeks, we go to some form of resistance training. Now, we don't chuck a barbell or a heavy kettlebell on a beginner from day one, because that just leads to injury, poor form, poor technique. They get despondent about it, they can get injured. So what we do, we try to get a client used to, get them, their personalities, their body, get used to sweating or feeling like they're being out of breath, okay? Essentially switch their nervous system on. So by the time they take up their first free weight, and again that can be the body, they don't panic. They think, okay, this is a challenge to my body, I'm going to enjoy it at some point, even if at this moment in time it's hard. All right, a classic example that I'd like to give to men is press-ups or push-ups, whatever you want to call them. If they have to start on their knees, that's fine. We can do, 3 sets of 10 or 3 sets of 20 or whatever. We can progress to doing more repetitions, 4 sets of 20 or 3 sets of 30. Once they can do those press-ups to a relatively good standard, good form, good technique, they are then showing an adaptation to strength. Okay, their chest, shoulders, triceps, and also their back, their abdominals, their core. His core is beginning to adapt, or at least recognise the stress that is being put under. So next thing we do, we take him out of that early comfort zone and ask the client, John or Dave, to do these press-ups on their feet. Okay, so the whole body is in a press-up position, but we take the knees off the floor and we start from on their hands and feet. Now, ordinarily what happens is, let's say John or Dave can do 20 press-ups on their knees safely. Again, we're talking about a raw beginner who has no fitness background and they're 40 and above. It's interesting. If they can do, say, 20 on their knees, it doesn't. They're definitely not going to be able to do 20 on their hands and feet to start with, because there's an extra range of movement. They're going higher and lower, that range of movement, and of course there's more body weight added because we've taken the knees off the floor. But that client may be able to do 8, 7, 8, 9, 10 on their feet. Okay, and that is an accomplishment, because only 2 or 3 weeks ago they weren't doing any, let alone 20 or 10 on their feet. All right, that's an easy example that everyone can understand about strength training, how your body has to recognise it's being put under some form of physiological stress and how to handle it and how to actually reap the benefits of it, because there are a multitude of benefits to being physically stronger. And let me just make it clear again, as I always do, there are none. There are 0 benefits to being physically weak. Yeah. Now, when I say physically weak, I mean unable to pick up an object in your own home safely without having to curl over, unable to walk out of your front door without the fear of falling over because you're unstable. Your muscles, ligaments and tendons, your skeletal frame are weak. Weak like someone who's been bedridden with the flu for 2 weeks, or an astronaut who comes back from space and his body's essentially emaciated, even though they do resistance training in space, but of course with no gravity, it's offset. So, or a newborn baby. There are, or someone who's maybe the age of 80 and above and moderately infirm. So there are easy examples, of someone who presents a degree of physiological or musculoskeletal weakness. Remember, there are 0 benefits to being physiologically weak, all right? Men or women, young or old. But there are hundreds of benefits to being physically strong. And again, I don't mean like a bodybuilder or like a man mountain. Those guys and those women are incredibly physically strong. They've got great genetics, an incredible work ethic, the way they train to make their bodies as big and strong as they can. And of course, the nutrition, the sleep, and supplements. And of course, the other subject is they may use steroids to get themselves further. That's if you're competing at the very highest level. That's another subject though. We don't do that. All right, so here we go. You look at it and say to yourself, okay, what can I get out of strength training? Yeah, and the things that we have to ask our clients as well is their lifestyle. What do they do? What do they eat at night? What do they eat in the morning? Because to get physically stronger, resistance-based exercise will only take you so far. You've got to actually address 2 other very important factors, and that would be nutrition and sleep. Now, some particular bodies, some people are physiologically more predisposed to adapting to and benefiting, certainly in terms of the movement or the function and the aesthetics, the size, than others. And that depends on your body type, or as we call it, your somatotyping. So if you've got a long, thin body like me, I'm 6'4", 180 pounds, I'm built for leverage in sports. Whereas if I was 180 pounds, but only 5'10", I'd have shorter levers. So my body would, if everything else being equal, have more opportunity to move a heavier object from A to B with good form quicker than someone longer. Okay, now there's going to be exceptions to the rule where you do have somebody who's 6'4" up to 7 feet. Classic example, the guys that play in the NFL or the NBA in America. Those guys are physiological giants, okay, and they are incredibly strong, a lot stronger than you think as well, or a strongman. But we're talking about the 1% of the entire population. Normal people like us. All right, so remember, if you are a man and your height is approximately, let's say in old money, let's say 5'8" to 6 foot, which is relatively short compared to myself, but actually, if you crunch the numbers, the average height of the male, of a man in America, I think the records are, it's 5'9" or 5'9.5". All right, you have got an advantage because you've got shorter levers than a guy who's taller. So don't waste what you've got. And the same thing with women. If a woman's height is, I don't know, anything between 4'11" to 5'8", okay, that's still quite a wide range there. A woman should do strength training as much as a man should do, okay? And that's, again, to keep her body strong, her body fat levels in check, as in, at the very least, balanced or low, visceral fat low. And also, it is important to keep the woman's natural shape and curves. That's a very important thing. And I would advise you, don't let anyone convince you that the way we look is not important. It is very important the way we look, because others do judge us by the way we look. Remember, our eyes are one of our senses, and we should use our senses like that in the way we have touch, vision, speech, smell. Our eyes are a very important sense that we've got, and guess what? We've got two of them, and it is important how we look. Okay, in the there's a push at this moment to convince us men and women that it's not important how we look. It's not important to be healthy and physically strong. That's not true. Okay, it is important how we look, and it is important to be physically strong and healthy. So I would say, okay, right, John, right, Dave, here we are now, we're in month 2. What we're going to do now is move you on from resistance bands and bodyweight exercises, or maybe even a TRX suspension training, and move them on to dumbbells and barbells and plates, okay? And a dumbbell can range, certainly in my training, from 1 kilo up to maybe 30 kilos, depending on the exercise and the client. Ordinarily, we like to give a lighter dumbbell to a client and see them and work with them so they can move that object from A to B safely with good form, okay, and on high repetitions to actually force lots of blood, lots of oxygenated blood into the muscles. All right, so a lighter weight moved well, yeah, is way better than a heavy weight moved poorly. And I would think that most people understand the principles of that. But it's very interesting. If you go to your local gyms, hasn't got to be January, it could be any time of the year, and you go in at the witching hour, I don't know, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m, Monday through Friday, or Saturday and Sunday mornings. There's always 1 or 2 people that are in the weight training area that are clearly lifting a weight that is too heavy for him or too heavy for her. Even to the untrained eye. You know, we see guys doing bicep curls and swinging their whole body up and down just to move a weight. Well, what they could do is check their ego at the door and have a lighter weight and move it well. But of course, you know, we don't want to do that. We want to pick up the heaviest weight and move from A to B. And there is some evidence to show that very heavy weights will actually stimulate the nervous system and stimulate tissue growth alongside the good sleep enough to actually give you bigger, more aesthetically pleasing muscles. But there's more evidence to show that a slightly lighter weight moved well with good form and good contraction will actually give you a better physique for function and again for aesthetics. Okay, now we like to ask our clients, what kind of resistance training do you enjoy? Because not everybody enjoys a dumbbell or a kettlebell or a medicine ball or a resistance band or a TRX training system. Believe it or not, I'm always pleasantly surprised how many women that I've trained at some point really enjoy weightlifting with barbells and plates. Ordinarily, it's something that they've always avoided or been scared of, thinking that's just for big tough guys. Or as a woman said to me yesterday in my conference, big macho men. Well, it's not 1970 anymore. It's 2024, and things have come a long way since then. Yeah, and that's another reason why we see so many different colours in terms of the equipment in health clubs and gyms. Is to stimulate the eye. Yeah, if everything's black and grey when you go in, yeah, I'd like that. That's the kind of thing I'd like. But you see lots of reds, yellows, blues, greens, pinks, whatever, because people like colour. It's not just big tough guys. You get a lot of girls and young women in the gyms. All right, so once we find that a client, male or female, likes lifting the barbells, and we educate them to the weight of a barbell. Ordinarily, in a personal training studio, the barbells are just under 20 to 25 kilos, and that in itself, as a 7-foot bar that weighs 20 to 25 kilos, that in itself is a weight. You drop that on your foot, you're going to know about it. So we take clients first and get them to use the barbells safely. when I studied, we did the math of how long it takes for a new client to learn how to technically, with good form, lift weights. It takes 3 years, and the math is sound. It's 3 years is the average it takes. Now, because that's an average, it could take somebody 4 or 5 years, but the very minimum is about 2.5 to 3 years of regular resistance training or weight training until that person becomes what we would call competent. Not an expert, not an education, but competent in weight training. All right, so the benefits of weight training as well will help you relieve stress. I spoke to a young lady yesterday, I think she was about 39, and she came up to me after the conference and told me why she's joined the gym but doesn't go. She finds it unnerving or intimidating, and I understand that. So I spent 5 minutes talking with this young lady and answering her questions and actually trying to not convince her, but just calm her and get her to be relaxed about the thought of going to the gym, to enjoy the process. And the process could be learning how to do a particular technique, learning how to perform a lift of some description. And equally, there's an epidemic, I would call it, or pandemic, don't know, at the moment, of men that don't exercise. Yeah, okay. There's 100 reasons why. Okay, but I'll look at one of the first couple of reasons, and that's because the men's standards of their self-image and their own body's ability to perform well has dropped. Yeah, and of course the other one is the marketing push to actually convince men that it's okay to be unhealthy and physically weak, whereas it's not. You know, you shouldn't have a single friend, family member, work colleague, relative, or what have you, who wants you or thinks it's good for you to not do any exercise and be unhealthy and be physically weak. There shouldn't be anyone in your iPhone or your file of facts, if you're from the 70s, that wants you and is happy that a man doesn't exercise, because there are zero benefits to it. The only person that benefits from a man being physically weak and unhealthy is pharmaceutical companies, because their job is to actually provide you with medicines and what are technically engineered poisons to actually get you hooked on medicine and tablets rather than hooked, for want of a better word, on exercise and good sleep and good nutrition. No one else wants you to be physically weak. Okay, so the next thing we're going to have a look at as well is why it's important for women to exercise or do some form of strength training. And to touch on this subject, I've trained hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women as a professional since 2008. And I've always been pleasantly surprised, again, how many of them enjoy the feeling or the thought of strength training. Once they get over the fear or the nerves about, is it going to turn them big? Is it going to make them muscly? Is it going to give them a man's features? It's about 1 in 100 chance, if not less, of that happening for physiological reasons. But when women go into menopause, again, and that can be from the age in their 30s, and certainly 40s, that physiological and that emotional change in the body is inevitable. And therefore, I would counsel or guide a woman who's approaching that, who has come to our centre mid-menopause, pre or post, but it's that time in life for her to take on some form of resistance training. Don't just rely on medicines and toxins and poisons. Actually say to yourself, right, if I've got to see my therapist or my doctor or my hormone specialist, great, that's good, you should do that. That's what they're there for, the NHS or private, but equally take charge of your own body as well. Strength training for women can improve their sense of well-being, their sense of worth, okay, their sense of having a reason to get out of bed in the morning. It can actually slow down, in some cases, reverse the depression that can come with menopause as well. I've had a lot of stories shared with me by women that I train, so I'm talking as a professional with a lot of experience fortunately working with women that are pre, during or post-menopausal. And there's no potion or tablet or or pill or drink that can fix that. Yeah, you have to have, hopefully, your genetics, your lifestyle, your sleep, your nutrition, and some form of strength training. So I would actually suggest that a woman get out there, start walking, start getting your back, shoulders, hips, legs, ankles, and feet used to movement. Okay, and then move on to some form of muscular endurance, or go swimming or cycling. But at some point, take on strength training. And if that would be something like, it could be Pilates, it could be yoga, it could be Tai Chi. They've all got elements of strength involved. However, I've trained women that have done those exercises, and they've got 101 benefits. They're all very good exercises. But when they actually come in and pick up a weight, a tangible weight, from 1 kilo to 10 kilos, we're talking dumbbells, and they're 2, 3, 4 weeks into it, the change in their attitude and the change in their approach and their thought process about resistance training is remarkable, and I always enjoy seeing it. All right, so remember, it's early, still relatively early, 2024. We're still in January. It's not too late. You can start strength training any time in life. I would say start today, if not tomorrow. Okay, until the next one, my name's Tristan Lowe, and the podcast is the Over 40s Fitness with Tristan Lowe, and I think this is episode 37, I'm not sure. I'm looking forward to getting to episode 40, 50, and at some point, episode 100. All right, you can catch me on this. Please like, subscribe, and share. Ask questions. Thanks for listening, and of course, thanks for watching. Bye for now.